2 years after breaking up with Cade Wei, my lung cancer finally reached its late stage. At the final moments of my life, I dragged my body racked with severe pain to Namso Lake. We had promised to come here when we had been in love for 999 days, but in the end, I came alone. The phone call from the doctor urging me to return for chemotherapy kept ringing. I pressed mute and buried the pendant Cade Wei gave me by the lakeside. Cade Wei, this is the last time I'll think of you. Maybe I'll never have the chance again. The words had just left my mouth when my nosebleed dripped into the sand, but then came the voice I had been thinking of day and night for 3 years. Miss, could you please help me and my girlfriend take a photo? My heartbeat suddenly paused at that moment, frantically wiping away the nosebleed. I turned around, and Cade Wei was standing right there. The moment he saw me, his pupils suddenly contracted, his eyes filled with shock. Cade, do you know each other? The girl beside him asked curiously, intimately linking her arm with his. Cade Wei stiffly shifted his gaze away from my face, pulled the girl into his arms, and his voice was as cold as the wind of Namso. I don't know, 2 years of dating, and we don't know each other. I forced out a bitter smile, my heart feeling like it was being pierced by countless tiny needles, the pain making it hard to breathe, while I was still in shock. Cade Wei forcefully shoved the camera into my hands. Are you going to take the picture or not? We're in a hurry. The girl thought his attitude was inappropriate and quickly gave me an apologetic smile. Sorry about that, miss, he's just got this terrible temper. She turned to Cade Wei with a coquettish complaint, carrying just the right amount of grievance. Cade, Auntie made us travel together to improve our relationship, and she insisted we take photos together to show her. I know you're unhappy, but you can't be so impolite to others, can you? She mentioned Cade Wei's mother, then turned to me with a promise. Miss, we will pay for it, thank you for your trouble. But Cade Wei frowned. Vera, why are you saying so much to her? Hearing Cade Wei's words, my mind went buzz with shock. So she was Vera Song. She is Cade Wei's mother, who had already approved me as her daughter-in-law 2 years ago. Back then, I had just finished cleaning up the mess in the shop and went to find Cade Wei, who had answered the phone, when I accidentally overheard his mother saying, our Wei family's future daughter-in-law can only be a girl like Vera Song, who understands ambition. What can a girl who runs a barbecue shop do for you? How dare she try to cling to my son? She has no sense of shame whatsoever. Cade Wei was silent for a long time before saying, Mom, I understand. I will marry a woman who will satisfy you, according to the family's wishes. I didn't expect them to be getting married so soon. It felt as though all my internal organs were being torn apart. The pain was so intense I could barely stand, and I only managed to take the camera in a daze. In the viewfinder, Cade Wei is holding Vera Song's shoulders, his gaze tender. Vera Song is nestled in his arms, smiling brilliantly and sweetly. Click, I press the shutter. Tears blur my vision without warning. Vera Song was happily flipping through the photos on the camera, completely oblivious to my distress. Cade Wei, however, walked over to me and whispered in a very low voice, Nova Chu, who are you trying to impress with this pitiful act? What, regretting it now? Weren't you quite cavalier when you threw me away like trash before? I forced back my tears, lifted my head, and put on a smile as I looked at him. Mr. Wei, aren't you overthinking this? It's just about discarding an unsuitable relationship. Don't make it seem like a matter of life and death. I've never regretted breaking up with you. His face instantly turned ashen, as if he had been punched. Fine, Nova Chu, you're doing great. Someone like you will never deserve anyone's genuine feelings. After saying that, he turned around abruptly, grabbed Vera Song's hand, and strode away. Only when Cade Wei's figure faded into the distance did I finally burst out laughing bitterly. Yeah. I was the one who let go. What right do I have to cry? I don't regret breaking up with Cade Wei, and I don't have the chance to regret it either. After all, I'm going to die. I trembled as I reached into my bag for the lung cancer painkiller injection and skillfully injected it into my wrist. The cold liquid slowly entered my body, and I took one last look at the pendant buried in the sand. Then I threw away the syringe and started the car. But as soon as the car reached the entrance and exit of the sacred lake, I heard a commotion. It was actually Cade Wei. What right do you have to stop us from leaving? Cade Wei argued with a cold face, but the staff member's attitude was firm. Sorry sir, during peak tourist season, vehicles without reservation registration are not allowed to enter or exit. Cade Wei's face darkened terribly, but Vera Song spotted my car and her eyes lit up as she quickly walked toward me. Miss, I'm really sorry to bother you again. She tapped on my car window, her face apologetic. Cade's mother arranged this trip for us at the last minute. We left in such a hurry that we forgot to make the vehicle passage reservation online in advance, and now we can't get out. I see your car is registered. Could you please take us out? My heart felt like it was submerged in water, drowning in waves. The moment Cade Wei called out to me, I was actually delighted. I thought he was at least somewhat doing it for me, but in the end, it turned out to be just his mother's arrangement. It turned out that I was the only one who remembered that 999-day promise, and he was just passing by coincidentally. I gripped the steering wheel tightly, my gaze happening to meet Cade Wei's not far away. Vera Song continued speaking. Our hotel is the Qianhao just nearby. Miss, please, Qianhao, that's exactly the one I ed. I somehow said okay without thinking. Vera Song immediately showed a grateful smile, got into the back seat first, then called out to Cade Wei. Cade, hurry up and get in the car. Cade Wei walked over, his hand already habitually reaching for the front passenger seat. That was the seat he had occupied for 2 years. But just as his hand was about to touch the door handle, he suddenly changed direction and sat down crookedly next to Vera Song. The road was deathly silent. I was so embarrassed I could only regret it. But Cade Wei saw the pill bottle I had left in the car and suddenly spoke up. What is that? That's my strong painkiller, but I can't let Cade Wei know, so I vaguely lied. Vitamins. Miss Chu, you really know how to take care of yourself. He mocked me as usual, and Vera Song beside him scolded him. Cade, why are you always being sarcastic with Miss Chu? You should be gentler with girls. As she spoke, she yawned. Cade Wei naturally pressed her head against his shoulder. Sleep for a while. Vera Song blushed. There are still people here. I felt a wave of dizziness. When we were dating, he came every day to help with threading skewers and clearing tables, working late into the night. Once, I was so exhausted that I crouched at the door, unable to stand up. He sat beside me without caring about his appearance, laughing at my greasy hair and disheveled look. Then he pressed my head against his shoulder. At that time, we were staring blankly at the empty road when he suddenly turned his head, his eyes containing only my figure. Nova Chu, wait for me. I will definitely marry you. But now, he's someone else's fiancé. The intense pain surged through my chest like a tidal wave, and I could hardly tell if it was from the cancer or heartbreak. I finally managed to drive to the hotel, and as soon as I got out of the car, Cade Wei's cold voice crashed over me. Miss Chu, why are you still following us? Haven't the money already been transferred to you? I was in so much pain that my breathing was trembling. The hotel front desk took my suitcase. Miss Chu, welcome to Qianhao Hotel. Your room is ready for you. Cade Wei only then realized he had wronged me. He sheepishly touched his nose and had someone check me in. At night, I was in such pain in bed that I felt dizzy and thought I was about to die. The door was suddenly knocked on. One knock after another, very urgent. Even in death, they won't let a person die in peace. I was furious, struggling to get up and open the door, but when I opened it, Cade Wei was actually standing there. Vera Song stood behind him, with a hint of embarrassment on her face. Miss Chu, I'm sorry. Our room's water heater is broken, so we'd like to borrow your bathroom. Is that okay? I instinctively wanted to refuse, but Cade Wei seemed to see through my thoughts. A cold smile curling at the corner of his mouth. What's the matter, Miss Chu? Are you afraid we'll dirty your room? Are you really that stingy? Or could it be that Miss Chu has someone hidden in the room and doesn't dare let them see anyone? I was so choked up by his words that I couldn't catch my breath, and I yanked the door open. Please, both of you, go ahead. After Vera Song went in, only the two of us remained in the room. The sound of water filled the air, and the atmosphere was so awkward it felt almost solidified. Cade Wei stared at me intently, making my scalp tingle. Just as I turned to slip away to the balcony, his suppressed voice suddenly rang out. Nova Chu, how much longer are you going to hide? he took a step forward and reached out to grab my hand. I was afraid he would see the needle mark, so I quickly pulled my hand back. Cade Wei grabbed nothing and froze. The next second, his eyes turned red, and he stepped forward, pinning me tightly against the wall corner. Nova Chu, you block my calls and delete me on WeChat. How long are you going to hide from me? Are you that afraid of me? Why did you suddenly bring up breaking up? Do you think I'm useless and not good enough for you because my project failed? Or is it because some new love has caught your attention? Nova Chu, what exactly have I done wrong? Tell me, okay. His voice was hoarse beyond recognition, and his eyes seemed to be filled with moist tears. My heart ached so much it felt like it would shatter too. What could I say? That I had cancer and was dying? That I heard his mother call me shameless? Or that I heard him promise his mother he would marry a woman who would satisfy her? Actually, that's fine too. I can't delay his happiness any longer. I turned my face away, palely repeating those insincere words. There's no reason. Cade Wei, we're not suitable for each other. Cade Wei's breathing hitched. He stared at me intently, then suddenly laughed. Good. Nova Chu, you're doing great. He gritted his teeth and flipped through the photos he took with Virasong, quickly posting one to his social media. Then, he shoved his phone screen in front of me, forcing me to look at that line of text. Go to the right place with the right person. What a perfect match, Nova Chu. Now I'm here with the right person. Does that make you happy? A wave of sweet, metallic taste surged up my throat. Pain shook my entire body, making it hard for me to stand. He looked at my distressed appearance, and a trace of confusion appeared on his fierce face. Nova Chu, you. Cade Wei was about to ask me what was wrong when the bathroom door opened. Virasong walked out wrapped in a towel, calling out to him in a voice. Cade, I'm done washing, let's go. Cade Wei's feet remained rooted to the spot. I pointed shakily at the door and gritted my teeth to speak. Go on then. What are you standing there for, Mr. Wei? Your girlfriend is calling you. You're so disobedient to her words. You're not thinking of someone else, are you? Being so fickle. Aren't you afraid of being ridiculed if people find out? Cade Wei looked at me lie for a moment, then finally turned around and left with Virasong. The moment the door closed, I could no longer hold on, rushed into the bathroom, and vomited a large mouthful of blood into the sink. I reached into the cabinet and grabbed a painkiller injection, hastily stabbing it into my arm. The moment the medication surged through my body, I looked at my own face in the mirror, pale as a ghost, and suddenly burst into tears. He hadn't gone far, so close to me, just a few steps away. I wanted to tell him, Cade Wei, I'm in so much pain, I can't hold on anymore. I really wanted him to hold me, even if just for a moment, but I can't do it anymore. In a daze, I seemed to hear outside the door, Cade Wei calling my name in an extremely soft voice, Nova. It actually hurt so much that I started having hallucinations. I smiled palely, and the next second my phone rang. As soon as I answered, the doctor's furious roar came through the line. Nova Chu, do you want to die? Why haven't you answered your phone for several days? Your chemotherapy time has passed. Don't you care about your own life at all? Get your ass back here immediately. The pain was so intense that I couldn't utter a single word, only letting out weak moans. Just then, the door was kicked open by someone. Cade Wei snatched my phone and, without even looking at the caller ID, shouted into the phone, "What do you mean go back? She's busy. Go find whoever you want." He hung up the phone and approached me step by step, suddenly grabbing my wrist, his face filled with a cold sneer. Not bad. Nova Chu, I was wondering how you could just kick me to the curb with one foot. So you found someone new. What? Does your new lover control you this tightly? Are you willingly letting him yell at you? Let him hit and scold you as he pleases. Nova Chu, I really look down on you. This time I had no strength left to dodge, and the needle hole he pinched started bleeding. The lung cancer in my chest was so painful that I couldn't breathe. I gasped several times, wanting to tell him it wasn't like that. But the next second, blood started flowing from my nose. Cade Wei's pupils suddenly contracted as he saw the blood-soaked needle mark on my hand again. His face changed instantly, his voice trembling slightly. What is this? My heart sank with a thud, plummeting to the bottom of the valley. I'm done for. I used all my strength to calmly wipe away the blood streaming from my nose. I'm just getting overheated. The weather here is too dry. What about these wounds on your arm then? I pulled my arm back and forced myself to stay calm. I accidentally got scratched by some wild grass by the lake. Cade Wei's eyebrows were tightly furrowed together as he stared into my eyes, seemingly trying to discern truth from falsehood. After a while, he let go of my hand, his tone carrying a hint of irritation. "You're such an adult. Why are you still so clumsy?" He gritted his teeth, seemingly wanting to say something more, when Vera Song knocked on the door. "Cade, why does it take so long to get a hair tie for me? Auntie asked you to call her back. Remember to reply." "Got it." A flash of irritation crossed Cade Wei's face. But he still returned the missed call. His mother's voice, filled with laughter, could be heard clearly by me even from a distance. "Cade, you've finally come to your senses. Mom said that Vera girl is so good, unlike that previous one who smelled completely of cheap cooking oil from head to toe. I feel sick just thinking about it. She has no skills at all. She'll only be a burden to you. Stay away from her whenever you see her in the future." "Mom." Cade Wei's face stiffened. He glanced at me guiltily, and hurriedly said into the phone, "I have something else to deal with here. I'll hang up now." After hanging up, he spoke stiffly. "My mom. She didn't mean it that way. Don't take it to heart." I pulled at the corners of my mouth, shaking my head with a bitter smile. "Yes, I understand. I know. Auntie had been thinking this way 2 years ago too." Cade Wei gritted his teeth, trying to find another topic to shift this awkwardness. But I didn't want to continue anymore. I was too tired and too hurt. "It's okay. I understand everything." I turned my head and opened the door to look at Vera Song at the entrance. "Miss Song, your boyfriend asked me to give you a ride tomorrow to get your car." I agreed. "You should go back and rest quickly." "Nova, Cade Wei's face was anxious, and he still wanted to say something. I raised my eyes and looked at him calmly. "What? Do you still want to stay and make your mother worry more about the relationship between you and her daughter-in-law?" This sentence, like a wall, completely separated us. Cade Wei was instantly rendered speechless, his chest tight with anger, shooting me a resentful glare before leaving with Vera Song. I leaned against the wall, watching his retreating figure, and exhaled a breath of blood-tinged air. This was the final stretch of the road, just to see Cade Wei for the last time. After sending him off for the final stretch, treat it as our last farewell. Then, I'll go back for chemotherapy, quietly waiting for death, all alone. The next day when we set off, the atmosphere in the car was so oppressive it was hard to breathe. Neither Cade Wei nor I said a word. As soon as the car arrived at the gas station, I got out to refuel. The moment I steadied myself, I couldn't help but burst into violent coughing fits, coughing so hard that it felt like my internal organs were being displaced. With a metallic taste of blood rushing up my throat, terrified that Cade Wei would see me in this state, I hastily covered my mouth with a tissue and rushed toward the restroom. From the corner of my eye, I saw Cade Wei's expression darken as he raised his foot to follow me. "Cade," Vera Song grabbed his arm and pointed to the restroom sign. "That's the women's restroom. I'll go check on her." Cade Wei nodded distractedly. I collapsed over the wash basin, vomiting up a mouthful of blood that stained the tissue in my hand crimson red. Finally, I threw it weakly into the trash bin and rinsed the bloodstains from the corners of my mouth with water. "It looks like you really won't live much longer." Vera Song's voice suddenly came from behind me. I froze. In the mirror, she was staring at the glaring red mass in the trash bin, her face showing a complex expression of pity. "I know you're Cade's ex-girlfriend. I recognized you the first time we met. When I said yesterday that I didn't know you, I was pretending." I didn't say anything, just silently looked at her. "Cade's mother mentioned you to me. She said she looks down on you because you took advantage of someone in need." A few years ago, when Cade's project failed and he was being interrogated and held accountable by the board, he went out to clear his head. He didn't bring his phone or wallet, and when his blood sugar dropped so low he was about to pass out, he happened to walk to your door. He had never experienced any setbacks in his life, and you invited him to eat barbecue when he was at his most desperate moment. That's how he remembered you. He was even willing to put aside his dignity and help you for free, threading skewers, clearing tables, working as a waiter. It made Auntie furious. Cade is the group heir, Nova Chu. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't even have the qualification to see him. You're not suitable for Cade. She walked to my side and lowered her voice. I hope you can disappear completely from Cade Wei's world and stop disturbing us. On what basis? I clenched my fists tightly, but ultimately said nothing. When Cade Wei was unconscious from a fever of 40 degrees, it was I who braved the heavy rain to take him to the hospital, shut the door, and stayed by his side for 5 days, accompanying him as he slowly recovered. When Cade Wei was being retaliated against by his rivals, it was I who rushed in without hesitation, grabbed a bench, and drove all 3 groups of people out. When the last group came, and an iron bar was swung toward the back of his head, it was also I who blocked it for him. The iron bar struck my back, and I was bedridden for half a month. Even now, it still hurts whenever it rains, but I'm about to die, so there's no need to say these things out loud. I could only grip the edge of the wash basin tightly, letting my unwillingness bite my eyes red. I know I'm dying soon. I never intended to disturb him. Coming to Namso, I just wanted to give myself some closure. Meeting you wasn't what I had planned, Vera Song. I won't be a stumbling block between you two. I just wanted to see him one more time during the final chapter of my life. But what Vera Song said next completely shattered all my defenses. Cade is still young, and he has a long road ahead in life. To spend the remaining decades of his life remembering a ghost would be too cruel to him. At this moment, all my strength was drained away. Yes, it would be too cruel. I knew that too, which is why I broke up with him in the first place. Looking at Vera Song's calm face, I knew I shouldn't even harbor the slightest hope. Vera Song truly loved him enough to calmly plan his future, and I, besides being a burden to him, could give him nothing. I closed my eyes and nodded. All right, I promise you, after I send you back, I will leave completely, but I have one request. I paused, looking at her with burning eyes. Take good care of him, love him well. Vera Song's expression became complicated. She looked at me, and there was actually a tremor in her voice. All right, she took out a lipstick from her bag and handed it to me. Put it on, before you leave him. Don't let yourself look like you're about to die. I took the bright red lipstick and carefully applied it in front of the mirror. The me in the mirror, except for an alarmingly pale complexion, seemed to look no different from before. We walked out of the restroom one after the other. Cade Wei immediately came over, looking at me with a furrowed brow. What's wrong? Why did you stay in there so long? Cade Wei's gaze fell on my overly red lips and still pale face, and he muttered a curse. Not too harsh but not gentle either. Before I could figure out how to start speaking, Vera Song had already naturally come to my rescue. She's having some altitude sickness and was vomiting earlier. She's much better now. Cade Wei's tone was neither light nor heavy, carrying a hint of reproach. Having altitude sickness and still daring to come to such a place alone. You're really getting more and more capable. After saying that, he actually pushed past me and opened the driver's door himself, saying in a stiff tone, "Sit in the back and rest." I looked at the back of his head, revealing a bitter smile, and silently sat in the back seat. The car ride was bumpy, and my pain began to intensify again. I couldn't inject myself in front of them, so I could only reach for the bottle of strong painkillers in the car and swallow a few dry. Cade Wei, however, stared intently at my actions through the rearview mirror. Nova Chu, what the hell are you taking? His voice was cold as ice. What kind of vitamins do you keep in the car to take all the time? I was caught off guard, still trying to think of an excuse. But Vera Song suddenly pulled out an exquisite small jar from her bag and shoved it into my hands, smiling as she scolded Cade Wei. Cade, you're making such a big fuss. Girls have weak constitutions and need to be nourished more. She turned her head and said to me gently, Miss Chu, this is the top-grade cordyceps that Aunt Wei gave me last time. You're not feeling well, so please accept it. Consider it as a thank you from Cade and me for taking care of us these past few days. She was both making excuses for me and subtly reminding me that I and they belonged to two different worlds. I clutched the cordyceps jar tightly, my face pale with a forced smile. Thank you. The car fell into another suffocating silence. Finally, they arrived at the location where they had picked up the car. This was their final intersection. Cade Wei got out of the car, and I gazed deeply at his profile, wanting to engrave his appearance into my mind. I looked for a very long time. So long that he seemed to feel my gaze burning into his back before he finally turned his head away, and I softly said my final words, "Goodbye." Cade Wei's body stiffened, but I returned to the driver's seat without any hesitation, pressed the accelerator, and drove away, outside the window. The scenery rushes by. I don't dare to look back. I'm afraid that if I turn around, all my strength will crumble to pieces. Cade Wei, I miss you so much, if possible. How I wish you could be with me during the final moments of my life. I'm so afraid of dying alone. Cade Wei watched Nova Chu's car disappear around the corner, and the uneasiness in his heart grew stronger and stronger, even after sitting in his own car and driving on the highway for 6 or 7 hours. There was no improvement at all. He was agitated and pressed the accelerator pedal desperately. Vera Song, who was sitting nearby, looked at his wrist and spoke cautiously. "Cade, your watch is missing. Did you leave it at the hotel? Should we go back and look for it?" Cade Wei suppressed his irritation. "The acting can stop now. The photos have been sent to my mom and explained. And Nova Chu has also left. You don't need to pretend to be my girlfriend anymore." The smile on Vera Song's face instantly froze, her palms gripping so tightly they left blood marks. After a moment of silence, she said in a deliberately calm voice, "I was just reminding you out of courtesy that the watch is very expensive. I know where the watch is. I don't need you to worry about it." Cade Wei deliberately left his watch in Nova Chu's car. Right when she and Vera Song were politely declining the caterpillar fungus, he went to great lengths, just looking for an excuse to say one more word to Nova Chu, to explain to her that every time he agreed with his mother, it was against his will, and to tell her not to take it to heart. Cade Wei irritably pulled over to the side of the road, took out his phone, and dialed Nova Chu's number. The phone rang for a long time, but no one answered. He dialed again, still no one answered. A strong sense of unease immediately enveloped him. No, this isn't right. Even if Nova Chu had arrived home, the shop being busy wouldn't cause her to not answer the phone continuously. Could something have happened? He suddenly activated the watch's positioning system, and a small red dot was blinking on the screen. The flashing location is the District People's Hospital. Cade Wei's blood instantly froze. Hospital? Why would it be at the hospital? He suddenly remembered Nova Chu's pale face, remembered the sudden nosebleed that had trickled down, and the handfuls of vitamins she had swallowed. Nova Chu was in such a terrible state, yet he had still let her go back alone. If something were to happen to her, this thought nearly made him suffocate. On the 999th day coming to the sacred lake, that pickup line he had said was because he saw a girl by the lakeside who resembled Nova Chu. When Cade Wei realized it was really her, he was inwardly overjoyed, but then remembered how he had sulkily said those terrible things to her after being dumped for no reason, and how he had let her get away. If it was because of this that Nova Chu became distracted and had a car accident, the thought made him break out in a cold sweat. And he couldn't help but feel terrified. "Get out of the car." As soon as he drove off the highway, he said to Vera Song. Vera Song was stunned. "What? I'm telling you to get out." "Never mind. Just drive yourself back." He no longer cared about maintaining any composure, got out of the car directly, hailed a taxi, and rushed toward the hospital like a madman. All the way, he was praying in his heart, "Nova Chu, you must not be harmed." After the taxi stopped, he rushed into the emergency hall of the hospital and headed straight for the nurse's station. "Hello, may I ask which ward Nova Chu is in?" "The one who had a car accident." The nurse checked on the computer and looked up at him. No patient named Nova Chu was in a car accident. Cade Wei breathed a sigh of relief, but the nurse's next words plunged him into an abyss. "However, there is someone named Nova Chu in the oncology department. Is that your friend?" "Oncology department?" Cade Wei's mind went completely blank, as if struck by lightning. How could it be cancer? She was perfectly fine before they broke up, lively and energetic every day in the barbecue shop. More spirited than anyone else. Impossible. Check again. Could it be someone with the same name? The nurse impatiently turned the screen toward him. "Look for yourself. Nova Chu, late-stage lung cancer, Ward 302. Cade Wei stared at the words on the screen, feeling as if the entire world had collapsed. He couldn't believe it. Stumbling toward the inpatient department, he prayed all the way. This had to be a mistake, it had to be someone with the same name, it had to be just a coincidence. Until he pushed open the door to room 302, the figure he had been thinking of day and night was lying on the hospital bed, fast asleep, with a grayish and haggard complexion. The nurse was changing the forebag for Nova Chu. Seeing him burst in, she frowned and scolded, "Sir, please be more gentle and don't disturb the patient's rest." Cade Wei, however, seemed as if he hadn't heard anything. Rushing frantically to the bedside and grabbing the thick stack of medical records, he flipped through the pages one by one, his fingers trembling. Diagnosis date, 2 years ago. Lung cancer, middle stage, 2 years ago. Wasn't that when they broke up? So Nova Chu's inexplicable breakup was because of this. She endured it alone for 2 years, struggling through until now. How much pain must she have been in? Cade Wei's face gradually reddened as he thought and thought. When I opened my eyes, Cade Wei's face was right in front of me. This must be a dream, right? Otherwise, how could he be looking at me with such gentleness? Cade Wei. I reached out my hand tremblingly, calling his name. "I'm here, Nova, I'm here." He eagerly grasped my hand, pressing his cheek against my palm, his eyes rimmed with red. The moment his warm cheek pressed against mine, the few tears I had left suddenly welled up and spilled out. A very, very long time ago, when we were together, he would lean against me just like this. "Cade Wei, you bastard, how could you forget me so quickly and bring someone else to our promised place?" Taking advantage of the fact that this was a dream, I poured out all my grievances and curses. "How dare you ignore me for 2 years and only come to see me in my dreams today? How could you be so heartless? I never really wanted to break up with you. How dare you call me heartless? You said at the hotel that you looked down on me and called me petty. So what if I'm petty? If I could help it, who would want to let you go to Virasong?" I cried and cried, then laughed, a laugh more sorrowful than my tears. "But what's the use of being petty? It's better to forget me too. Cade Wei, you and Virasong should be happy together forever. Anyway, I'm about to die. And being able to dream of you is enough." But he suddenly gripped my hand tightly and shouted at me, "Don't say that, Nova Chu, I haven't forgotten. Don't talk nonsense. I went to the sacred lake because I remembered we promised to come here together on the 999th day. You don't know how happy I was to see you. I only brought Virasong because my mom forced me to. Virasong is not my girlfriend, let alone my fiancé. I was just playing along with her to make you jealous again. Because being jealous means you care, Nova Chu. I don't want you to leave me again." His eyes were getting redder and redder. Listening to these words, I bitterly smiled. If only Cade Wei could really say that to me. But it's impossible. He promised his mother that he would marry a woman who would satisfy her. That person is Virasong, not me. Cade Wei looked at me deeply, and his tears finally overflowed. "I am the real, Nova, I am the real one. That was just to appease my mother. I just wanted to achieve success early and establish myself, so I could marry you in grand style. I should have told you earlier, instead of letting you bear it alone for so long. I'm sorry, I'm sorry." I froze. Cade Wei used all his strength to hold me tightly in his arms. He cried so hard that he couldn't utter a single word, yet he held me so forcefully, as if trying to squeeze out all the illness from my body. From that day on, Cade Wei would come almost every day after finishing his work. He was no longer anyone else's identity, just my Cade Wei. Sometimes, he would accompany me to the garden downstairs for a walk, and sit with me on the bench to bask in the sun. He would sit by my sickbed, keeping me company as I watched those boring TV series I used to love. He would sneak me grilled skewers I craved, hiding it from the nurses. When the nurses found out, they chased after him yelling for several corridors. He acted as if nothing had happened, stuffing his ears and sitting expressionlessly beside me, waiting until the nurse left before passing the grilled skewers back to me. I held his hand and smiled as I watched him get scolded, as if we had returned to the time before we broke up. But I knew that moments like these were running out. Gradually, I didn't even have the strength to get out of bed and walk anymore. The painkillers are taken like meals, yet they can't suppress the piercing. Bone-deep pain. I can only leave this hospital bed briefly when he carries me in his arms to the wheelchair. His eyes are always red as he repeatedly outlines our future in my ear. Nova, when you get better, I'll take you to see the aurora. When you get better, we'll open a shop of our own. We won't sell barbecue anymore. It's too tiring. When you get better, we'll get married. I always forced myself to smile and nodded in agreement. All right, but we both knew that day would never come, finally. On a late night, I looked at the bright moonlight outside the window and suddenly sat up. Cade Way, who had been napping by the bedside, was awakened by me. He rubbed his drowsy eyes and asked me, "What's wrong, Nova? Are you feeling unwell somewhere?" I shook my head and said softly, "Cade Way, I want to see the sunrise." He seemed to sense something, his body suddenly stiffening, but he didn't ask anything, just gritted his teeth, with red-rimmed eyes, and said one word to me, "All right." He pushed me in a wheelchair to the mountaintop near the hospital, that small hill, under the star-filled sky. We waited for the first ray of dawn. The golden sun broke through the clouds, spreading across the entire earth. It was truly beautiful. As I gazed at that magnificent sunrise, my breathing became increasingly labored, yet increasingly shallow. My body grew more and more exhausted, until the very last bit of strength was used up. Her lungs stopped working. I leaned against his chest and took one final look at him. "Cade Way, don't cry." The sun was rising, but my trembling hand that reached toward his cheek fell forever still. Nova Chu, wake up. Didn't you say you wanted to go see the aurora with me?" Nova Chu, he held my gradually cooling body tightly, calling my name with heart-wrenching desperation, crying so hard, so desperately, just like when he was 24, when he and I were leaning against each other, and he shouted loudly in my ear, "Nova Chu, wait for me. I will definitely marry you," I said. Okay. After the cremation, Cade Way took my ashes and returned to Namso Lake. Because I had once told him that I wanted to sleep here, he knelt on the sandy ground by the sacred lake. Silently digging at the sand with his hands, suddenly, his fingertips touched a cold rope. He pulled hard and dragged it out from the sand and soil. It was the pendant he had given me, which I had buried there initially. He gripped the pendant tightly, the small wooden carving deeply embedded in his palm, pressing so hard that blood streamed down. At this sacred lake, he could no longer hold back, weeping bitterly.